The morning air in Maple Hollow always carried the scent of pine and warm motor oil. At the edge of town, just past the faded wooden sign that read, "Welcome Home," there stood a small auto shop with a peeling blue door. The sign above it said, "Ethan's Garage." The letters were chipped, but the place was clean. Inside, tools were lined neatly on the walls. Wrenches hung in careful order. The floor was swept every evening before closing. Ethan Cole liked things simple. He was a quiet man in his late 30s, with steady hands and thoughtful eyes. Most mornings, he arrived before sunrise. He would lift the garage door slowly, listening to its familiar rattle. Then he would turn on the radio, low enough to blend with the hum of the town waking up. Maple Hollow was not a busy place. People knew one another. They waved from their porches. They trusted Ethan with their trucks, their old family sedans, and sometimes their stories. Business had been slow lately. A new repair chain had opened on the highway 20 miles away. It had bright lights and online coupons. Some of Ethan's regular customers had drifted there, curious about lower prices. Ethan didn't blame them. Everyone was trying to save money. Still, the quiet days made him think. One Tuesday afternoon, just as the sun began to soften, a pale gray sedan rolled into the lot. The engine coughed before shutting off. Ethan wiped his hands on a cloth and stepped outside. The woman behind the wheel looked tired. She was probably in her early 40s. Her brown hair was pulled back loosely. She wore a simple navy sweater and held the steering wheel for a moment longer than necessary, as if gathering strength. When she stepped out, Ethan noticed the way she scanned the shop sign, almost nervously. "Afternoon," Ethan said gently. "What seems to be the problem?" The woman offered a small smile. "I'm not exactly sure. The car keeps overheating. I had to stop twice on the way here." Her voice was soft, careful. "I'm Ethan," he said. "I'll take a look." She nodded. "Thank you." "I'm Clara Whitmore." The name didn't mean anything to him at the time. Ethan raised the hood and let the heat escape. Steam curled upward into the fading light. He checked the coolant reservoir. Empty. He looked at the radiator hoses. One had a small crack, barely visible unless you bent it the right way. "It's the hose," he said after a moment. "It's leaking. That's why it's overheating." Clara exhaled slowly. "Is it expensive?" The question carried more weight than the words themselves. Ethan hesitated. He could have quoted the standard rate. Parts and labor. It would have been fair. But he noticed the worn tires, the faint scratch along the side of the car, the way she held her purse close, as though counting what was inside. "It's not too bad," he said carefully. "Let me check if I have the part in the back." Inside the garage, Ethan paused. He found a hose that would fit. It wasn't new, but it was good. Perfectly safe. It had been part of a bulk order he made months ago. He returned outside and gave Clara a gentle nod. "I've got one. Give me about 30 minutes." She looked relieved, almost surprised. While he worked, Clara sat on the small wooden bench near the door. She watched him quietly. The sound of tools clicking and tightening filled the air. The town moved slowly around them. A pickup drove by. Somewhere, a dog barked. After 25 minutes, Ethan closed the hood. "Good as new," he said. Clara stood. "How much do I owe you?" Ethan leaned against the car for a moment. He thought about the slow week, about the bills on his desk, about the flicker of worry he felt some nights when the shop was too quiet. Then he thought about the way she had asked if it was expensive. He shook his head lightly. "It's on me." Clara blinked. "I'm sorry. It's a small fix. Don't worry about it." Her expression changed. Confusion first, then disbelief. "I can't let you do that." she said. "You're not," Ethan replied with a small smile. "I am." There was a long pause. Clara's eyes grew glossy, though she blinked the moisture away quickly. "That's very kind of you." "It's just a hose," he said. "Drive safe." She nodded slowly. "Thank you, Ethan. You have no idea how much this helps." He watched as she drove away, the grey sedan moving more smoothly now. For a few days, Ethan didn't think much about it. Life returned to its usual rhythm: oil changes, brake pads, the occasional flat tire, the radio humming in the background. Then, on Friday morning, something unusual happened. 2 black SUVs rolled into the parking lot. Ethan frowned. They were too polished, too formal for Maple Hollow. The engines shut off, almost in unison. 2 men in dark suits stepped out of the first vehicle. The town seemed to pause. Old Mr. Jenkins from the hardware store stood across the street, staring. A woman pushing a stroller slowed down. Ethan walked forward cautiously. "Can I help you?" he asked. One of the men adjusted his tie. "We're looking for Ethan Cole." "That's me." The man nodded once, as though confirming a detail. "Miss Clara Whitmore would like to speak with you." Ethan blinked. "Clara." Before he could say more, the rear door of the second SUV opened. Clara stepped out, but she did not look like the woman who had sat nervously on his bench 3 days earlier. Her hair was styled neatly. She wore a tailored charcoal coat. Behind her, another suited woman held a leather folder. The town watched from a distance, whispering already. Clara walked toward Ethan with calm, measured steps. "Good morning," she said. He cleared his throat. "Morning. I apologize for the dramatic entrance," she continued gently. "I didn't intend for it to be like this." Ethan looked at the SUVs, then back at her. "What's going on?" Clara studied his face for a moment, as if deciding how much to say. "My full name is Clara Whitmore Hale," she said quietly. "My late husband, Richard Hale, founded Hale Automotive Systems." Ethan's mind searched for recognition. Hale Automotive Systems. The name echoed. It was one of the largest auto parts manufacturers in the region. Their factories supplied parts to shops across the state. He had ordered from them before. "You're?" he began. "Yes," Clara said softly. "Since my husband passed last year, I've been overseeing the company." Silence settled between them. Across the street, Mr. Jenkins nearly dropped his coffee. Ethan stared at Clara, the tired woman from Tuesday, the cracked hose, the question about expense. "I don't understand," he admitted. Clara nodded slowly. "After my husband died, I realized something. I had inherited a company that served mechanics across the country, but I didn't truly know them. I didn't understand what small shops were facing, so I started visiting towns quietly, driving alone, speaking to people without telling them who I was." Ethan let that sink in. "The car wasn't broken by accident," she continued. "I had a minor issue on purpose. I wanted to see how I would be treated." He raised an eyebrow. "You tested me?" Clara smiled faintly. "In a way." The words might have stung, but her tone was not cold. It was thoughtful. "You could have charged me full price," she said. "You could have replaced more than needed. You could have taken advantage." Ethan shrugged lightly. Didn't seem right. She looked around the small shop, the chipped paint, the careful tools. "Most places I visited offered discounts once they suspected I might be important," she said. "Or they pressured me into unnecessary repairs." Her eyes returned to him. "You didn't know who I was. And you fixed it anyway." Ethan felt heat rise to his face. "It wasn't a big deal. It was to me, she said quietly. A soft wind moved through the lot. The town listened from a distance, pretending not to. Clara gestured to the woman with the folder. The woman stepped forward and handed Ethan a sealed envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "A proposal," Clara said. "Hale Automotive is launching a new small-town partnership program. We want to support independent garages, fair pricing on parts, extended payment terms, marketing support." Ethan stared at the envelope without opening it. "And?" he asked slowly. "And we would like Ethan's garage to be the first partner." The world seemed to narrow for a moment. "Why me?" he asked. Clara's answer was simple. "Because you remembered what this business is really about." Ethan looked down at the oil stains on his boots. "This town matters," Clara continued. "Small shops matter." My husband believed that. Somewhere along the way, the company became too focused on numbers. I want to change that. The wind carried the scent of pine again. "You don't owe me anything," Ethan said quietly. "I know," she replied. "That's exactly why this matters." They stood in silence for a few seconds. Finally, Ethan opened the envelope. Inside were documents outlining reduced wholesale costs and support for shop improvements. The numbers were clear. The opportunity was real. "This could keep my doors open," he admitted. Clara nodded. "That's the idea." Across the street, Mr. Jenkins gave a small approving nod, as though he had expected this all along. Ethan folded the papers carefully. "I fixed a hose," he said. "I didn't expect all this." Clara's expression softened. "When my husband was young," she said, "his car broke down in a small town very much like this one. A mechanic fixed it for free. That mechanic refused payment, said, 'Just help someone else when you can.' My husband never forgot that." She paused. "I think he would have liked you." The words hung gently in the air. For a moment, the black SUVs, the suits, the whispers, none of it mattered. There were just two people standing beside a small garage, speaking honestly. Ethan extended his hand. "I'll partner with you," he said. Clara shook his hand firmly. "Good." Over the next few weeks, Maple Hollow changed in small but noticeable ways. A new sign appeared beside Ethan's old one, "Proud Partner of Hale Automotive Systems." The paint on the garage door was refreshed. The floor was resurfaced. A small waiting area was added with a coffee machine and 2 comfortable chairs. But Ethan did not change. He still arrived before sunrise. He still kept the radio low. He still listened when customers talked about their worries. Word spread quickly about the partnership. Business returned. Then it grew. One afternoon, a single mother came in with a flat tire and a tight budget. Ethan replaced it and quietly reduced the bill. When she tried to thank him, he simply said, "Just help someone else when you can." Months later, Clara visited again. This time she drove the same gray sedan. No SUVs. No suits. She parked and walked inside. The S. Hop smelled of fresh coffee and motor oil. Ethan looked up and smiled. "Overheating again?" She laughed softly. "No, just passing through." They sat for a while in the small waiting area, watching the town move outside. "You know," Clara said, "the board asked why I chose Maple Hollow." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What did you tell them?" "I told them that sometimes the smallest places remind us who we are." Ethan nodded slowly. Outside, a young boy pointed at a truck being repaired, asking his father questions about engines. The future felt steady. Clara stood to leave. "Thank you," she said again, "not for the repair this time, but for something deeper." Ethan wiped his hands on his cloth and gave a small, thoughtful smile. "It was just a hose," he said once more. But they both knew it had been more than that. And in Maple Hollow, the story of the mechanic who fixed a widow's car for free became part of the town's quiet history, not as a tale of shock or wealth, but as a reminder that simple kindness, given without expectation, can travel farther than anyone imagines.